Hi, everybody, and welcome to Red Wings Rant, where tirades and impassioned pleas for your Detroit Red Wings finally have a home. We got to win. We did it. Hey, and the Armado just signed on. We're ready to go. Look at that.
It's an impassioned please. Hey, we found a home. Hey, how's everybody doing?
I was just about to tell your story that you're dealing with some crappy vendors.
Very pushy. He drove out here and he's like, I'm ready to fix it right now. And I was like, well, we don't want you to do that. We haven't priced it out at all. You're the only person who's come over. He's like, I drove 30 minutes for this. And I'm like, I guess so. See you later. So there he goes out into the snow. So now I'll have that on my conscience when he drives into a ditch because it's a snowy night. There we go.
I don't know. That's part of the job. Welcome to being a repairman.
I'm very sorry. $350 for new trim on a garage door seems a little steep. That's all I'm saying. But yeah,
Mike, Brian Burton, first one in. He's number one today.
Baby, let's go.
Reminding us of the good news. Cossa already back in Grand Rapids. Brian, you had to start on a low note, didn't you? Well, let's start on a high note, Mike. Sebastian Cossa gets called up, goes a few games, not getting a shot, but you know, you can trust Ville Husso. You can trust Ville Husso to get himself pulled from a game. And damn it all to hell, said Steve Yzerman when he noticed that Sebastian Cossa was in net after the first period. Lalone said, I can't do it anymore. I can't watch these pucks just slide in between Ville Husso's legs. And Cossa gets an NHL debut and his first win. Man.
I
felt good.
I'm pretty bummed because I feel like that Red Wing game, it looked like we were toast. The team looked a little deflated, and then even who got that shot of Cossa looking to his right with the trainer when the third goal went in. That was gold.
That was great. Yeah,
I almost feel like he got sent down to Grand Rapids because he got caught making that face.
I mean, he's definitely like the thought going through his head had to be, well, if it's not now, it's not going to happen.
So, I mean, in Detroit, we get to watch the Lions, right? And that's just excellence in the sports arena, essentially. Mm-hmm. And I feel like when those guys on the team see, maybe our defense falling apart, but you see the offense kicking ass, and it just kind of lifts everybody. It kind of looked like that same, or at least a similar emotional pull occurred when the kid was in there and the guys were like, let's win one for Cossa. And we had one of our better offensive outputs for the whole season. And I know the health of certain guys coming back is what's going to send Cossa back down. The fact that they want him to basically play every single game and not, do a timeshare like he would do in Detroit is what sends him down. But still, what are we doing? It doesn't feel like the goal is to win hockey games. The goal is to kind of meander and let Cossa figure things out for next season.
Yeah, sometimes when you and I are trying to figure out what we want to talk about, like I will kind of think like, okay, what's the name of the show? And I try to put together like what could a theme be for a rant. But I don't know if it's a rant so much, especially since I just read Max Boltman's article from a couple days ago. So I'm late to this, but my rant essentially was going to be, all right, Cossa gets the win. We all feel good. Should this be what this season is like? Should that be what the rest of the season is? Should we just be celebrating that Edvinsson looks great? Kasper looks like there's an NHL regular there, like not just like a guy who can keep up for a little bit and score every now and then, like a guy who's actually making a difference for what we're asking him to do.
Right.
That's essentially my call to action for Red Wings fans. And I think part of the question is like, are we ready? are we ready to start shopping? And by that I mean for
Selling?
some draft picks.
Oh.
Because I liked what I saw with Cossa. It felt good, and I know Kossa's already in Grand Rapids, so I'm not saying, you can't make the argument. I'm not, it's done. He's already gone. But should we just accept that this season is just going to be about these nice little moments that can, our moral victories that a couple seasons ago we were like, we're done with moral victories, but certainly with where we're at in the standings, I think they're back. And I think it's just right now, if I had to turn around and come back to how I started this and say, what should the rant be? It should be number one. I think we just get to celebrate this kind of feeling for a little bit. And I think number two, I think guys, you got to stop looking around at like when guys are on the trade block and you want to try and improve this team right now, because it's gone. This season's done. It's cooked. You're gonna go on one massive run here that would put you back into a playoff, like a legit playoff spot. Because even if you get that 8th wild card spot, which is kind of what you're gunning for, you're gonna get your ass handed to you. So this season's cooked. So I think right now, I think we need to make some room on this roster, and I think we got to start bringing some boys up, and I think we got to start celebrating some little victories here when these guys look like they're legit hockey players. Take away those first 2 goals from Cossa.
Yeah, the first one doesn't count.
Love the look. Yep.
First one doesn't count. He was ice cold. What's funny about this game is it actually feels, because I know that there's a lot of talk about Lalonde being on the hot seat. I feel like this was like his last stand. You know what I mean? Where it's like,
yeah.
Yzerman does not want Cossa playing this year at all costs. Like, we needed 2 goalies to get injured. We needed another one to completely fall off the rails and just go on waivers. And we needed another goalie to have just a bomb out in the first period for this guy to get his first game. He'd been on the Red Wings for what, 2 weeks before he actually got to play in a real game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think that that's necessarily on Lalonde. I still feel like this is Steve. And then Cossa plays 2 periods of 1 game and Steve sends him back down. Like, no, Derek, you don't get to play with this toy. You leave it alone. You just let it sit over there. You don't touch it. You don't play with it. Not till Christmas. And Christmas is definitely not this year for the Red Wings. To me, sending him back down is just confirmation that this season is lost. And what we're going to try to do is showcase guys, the other goaltenders on our NHL roster that we can try to move. We know Cossa is going to be around for the future. You get a taste of him to confirm, yep, probably next season you're going to see him. But Talbot, Lyon, and if you could move Husso, you would. That's what this demonstrated to me, is that this is going to be a showcase for old guys as we try to get middle of the draft picks.
You know what we did learn this week too? We learned like how terrible like Petrie and Sherratt are, because Steve Yzerman had to give up a draft pick to get Wallman off this team. And the New York Rangers got returns for an $8 million contract on Jacob Trouba. So it was not about the salary. It was just about how terrible those guys are. And that's certainly what's coming into play here. I pulled up the standings for you podcast listeners, and we should jump into the comments here in a second. I did want to talk about, like, despite us only being 4 points out of a wild card spot, I do think, and this was pointed out by quite a few folks recently with some of the Red Wings coverage, and it's like, oh, you beat the Sabres, which I also want to talk about that Sabres win in a second too, and what that should actually mean. But you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams in front of you, one of which just took care of you, and they're your supposed rival, You also have the Rangers, who have absolutely lunched specifically the Red Wings. They really can't do it against anyone else except for us. You got the Flyers tomorrow. So can the boys step up? Kind of question. That could be something that you could bring some more positivity to this conversation, but I wouldn't put money on it. But that's a lot of teams to jump over. And again, when even if you finally did make that jump, you've seen this team on display against some of the other teams that are at the top of those divisions. It's been pretty ugly. So, yeah. So I think right now what we need to do as Red Wings fans, and I want to come to the comments here, because I think it was Performance Art that jumped in. He did throw in there. I finally made it at the beginning, but he also threw in there. Listen, I can't handle another year, another no playoff year, another draft, another summer, another preseason. I can't handle it.
Get prepared to handle it, Performance Art. It's coming.
Right. And I think it's too late. Like when we were in the off season and we were like, this can't be it, right? This can't be the whole roster. Tarasenko gets signed and some folks are like, see, problem solved. Your roster's done. And we were both sitting there going like, that's not everything. That was all guy. That was the way to spend some of the money, but not the way to spend the amount of money. And yeah, I just, like you kind of landed in that direction, and you kind of wanted to see, how these first, right now we're almost at 30 games. How would these first 30 games go? They're not going great. And I think at this point now we kind of have to decide. We have to settle. And I think we got to start. I think we got to start thinking about what we're gonna get from Mr. Patrick Kane. Can we get rid of this Tarasenko contract? Yeah, there's some draft picks to be had here.
I know that the selling is easy, and we know who the targets would be, right? We are over 30 guys with a little bit of scoring left. Pop them on a third or fourth line on a real team. What drives me nuts is, we're in the Detroit area, so we get to see the Ilitches run, the Red Wings, and the Tigers with the most infuriating molasses builds of franchises. It's hard to find a precedent. Like, there's zero urgency. And I mean, it's not like goaltenders are not on the move. Like, there's no way we could have swung something with Colorado, who's got offensive talent dripping out of their ears. And no goalies. And we have 3 goalies, and we couldn't have got in on that. And instead, they're going to play Wedgwood. We didn't have a better offer than Wedgwood. Like, Lyon and Talbot are cooking, like top 10 guys, and shot percentage. It's really frustrating that we're just not even in these conversations. And it's not like there isn't movement. It's just that there isn't movement with the Red Wings.
And Blackwood.
Did I say what?
Yeah, Wedgwood, but Mackenzie Blackwood, and it's. I just want to call out. You actually picked him up.
No, Scott Wedgwood.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were we talking about Colorado and Mackenzie Blackwood?
Colorado. Wedgwood was traded to Colorado.
Mackenzie Blackwood? Am I crazy?
I think so.
That's right. This young man right here. Foop. Bloopy.
I'm reading it right now. Avalanche acquires Scott Wedgwood. You're crazy. You're making me feel nuts, man. Is that his effing name?
No. Mackenzie.
It's not Wedgwood? What are you talking about?
Blackwood. I just showed it to you.
Wow. Yeah, I guess there's literally NHL.com articles for Wedgwood. I'm looking at it right now. NHL.com.
No. Yeah, I don't know where. I have no. You need to send me that article. Here, I'm showing it. Look at my camera. I'm showing it to you right there.
The NHL is gaslighting me. Yeah, it literally says Scott Wedgwood traded to the Avalanche.
I want to see that. We need to post that.
I can't wait to see this. Let's hit a few comments here while we recalibrate our references here. So we had a heartbreaking comment from Performance Art. Heartbreaking because it's coming, my friend. There's no playoffs for this team. Jared, so I'm saying we trade Cossa. Jared, you are reading my mind, my man. Get rid of that guy. Too much winning for you. Blake. Oh, Blake, have you turned around, my friend? Because you said the Red Wing turnaround is coming. Not tomorrow, though. Lol. This is
he told us to stop all the negativity because it's gonna turn around.
But I did want to call out Blake because he said he saw an article about Soderblom coming up. Yeah, all the tea you can give me on Soderblom. Just feed it. And then Emily Free Wilson saying time for two teams to go big or go home. Stamkos and Shea for the 6th pick in this year's draft, and comp for Kopp and Veleno. This is a high note, and so am I. With these kind of trades where the Red Wings are giving up Comfer and Kopp, it's always who's going to say no, and it's whoever we're trading those two guys to. That's who's saying no, because absolutely not.
This is my favorite comment. Jared thrown out there. This is some top tier hockey talk.
You know what, Jared? I don't smell any sarcasm in there, and I really appreciate it.
I mean, if Mike's getting gaslit by NHL.com, that's legit. It's
crazy.
Totally
it's
imagine.
I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at it.
I can't wait to see the screenshot. So what else do we have to talk about today?
There is one person directionally correct saying, I'm glad they sent Cossa back to Grand Rapids. We don't want him to go through what Wallstead experienced in Minnesota last year. He's still not right. Well,
I like what you said earlier. I think, again, go a little bit earlier than the Wedgwood Blackwood part, but I think they've proved now that one of these goalies can get moved and Cossa can actually line up to help this team hold on and get a victory. I like that comment where it's like, okay, we've proved now there's enough here in the system. We don't have to hit the panic button or worry too much about the 3 goalies that we have if somebody comes knocking. Because I think there could potentially have been the argument of like, and I know it's only been 2 periods for Cossa, but say he comes in, gets absolutely shellacked. Yeah, then you're afraid to like, well, I can't get rid of Lyon or Talbot. Like the only guy I'm willing to get rid of now is Husso. But he came in, looked solid. We know he's looked solid in the AHL, and he basically every league that he's been in, it's basically half a season struggle, dominate, half a season struggle, dominate, half a season struggle, dominate. But what you saw was a guy who didn't just come in and poop the bed. So I think what you have here is a lot of leeway in regards to all 3 of those goaltenders. I think it's pretty obvious who we all want to get rid of, but I think as much as some people might think I'm crazy and seeing some of the goals saved above expected numbers for like Talbot right now and how he's killing it despite the injury seems to be the only thing holding him back right now. I'd play around. I'd screw around with it, Mike. I'd put him on the block. If Colorado tries, if you want to call him Wedgwood, Mike, if they want to mess around and Blackwood screws up, then I'll put
so
Talbot
much better, you guys. I was worried the NHL was gaslighting me. It was Matt. Colorado, current roster, Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood. See? I told you. They got 2 votes on their team.
You said you were reading an article that they traded.
They did.
Whoops.
Wedgwood traded to Avalanche December 1st. I don't know what more you want, you gaslighting son of a bitch.
Me?
I know this is some elaborate prank.
No.
Yeah. My hockey dyslexia has just set me up for failure. And now you're telling me that an article I'm looking at is not real? Come on, man.
I'm so confused right now.
Jared thrown out there. Husso has a 10-team, no trade clause. Hardest to move. Incredible that he was allowed to even negotiate that for a guy who had 3 months of being productive. And then brand new saying Calgary might be dumb enough to take on Compher in a trade this year. They need a depth right-handed center. Brand new, I guess, maybe if they want one that doesn't win faceoffs anymore, then they got their man. Let's go. And then Brian saying Cossa seemed dazed after the game. Like, man, that puck was moving fast. A lot faster than it does in Beer City. This is crazy. And then Dan B saying, seriously, if you eliminate the guys you don't want to trade, Raymond, Larkin, Seider, Edvinsson, who's left that anyone wants? Dan, it makes me sad because I've echoed those same sentiments to people that I talk to at work about hockey who have not given up on the Red Wings. And they have a lot of fantasy trades involving Compher, and every other, underperforming Red Wing, trading them for productive players. And I'm like, these only work if you include something of value. It's got to be first-round picks. It's got to be prospects that you're actually excited about. So, yeah, bundles of Husso plus nobody wants to hear it. Doesn't make sense. So, Dan B, thank you for articulating that for us. And Ketzel saying, Matt has been so disconnected. Matt, you gaslighting son of a bitch. And Brian saying, Matt, put down the bubble pipe.
So did they not just trade? What am I reading that says that they just traded for Mackenzie
They got
Blackwood
2 Woods.
this week?
They made 2 trades.
But the one that just happened with the Sharks
Scott Wedgwood
was Mackenzie Blackwood.
Well, that's one team, but they also traded with Nashville.
That was in November.
It wasn't. It was like December 1st.
It was November. Okay, so November 30th, December.
I got 2 Woods.
But okay. But we're talking. But the Colorado move that happened this past week was Mackenzie Blackwood. Am I? What? What the fuck is going on?
I thought it didn't happen, and I was reading not NHL.com, but you got to squint, and it's like NHLL.com, something like that. Jared's saying Colorado also has a Miles Wood, so they got 3 Woods.
Nice.
Well, it's a lot of wood.
So this is we're just getting absolutely I'm getting trashed right now. I thought the only important trade would have been Mackenzie Blackwood, but apparently I was wrong. Scott Wedgwood is high on your guys' list. This is a huge move for Colorado.
Big time.
Apparently they were so happy with Scott Wedgwood that when they traded for Mackenzie Blackwood, they were like, let's just see what happens.
Dude, the first one worked out. I think we roll those dice again. Let's get another one over here.
Yeah, there's Jared helping me out. Avs acquired Blackwood on the 9th. Thank you.
Yeah, but they got Scott Wedgwood.
Yeah, but the important trade for them was Mackenzie Blackwood. That was the one where they were like, all right.
Now that he's sick, arguably the more important one is Wedgwood because I got a Wood in reserve. So that's good.
Yeah, but we're talking about the difference between them picking up the starter for the Sharks, who the Sharks needed to trade away because they still want to tank, and picking up just another goaltender off of Nashville who's clearly got a starting goaltender who's not Wedgwood.
Brian Burton saying trade Husso, Kopp, Campbell, and other Deadwood for Jake Walman.
Yeah, having a career year. How much fun is that? Jared thrown out there. Welcome to Avalanche.
Love it.
Our slides today pretty much just highlight. I mean, it's Blake. There we go. All of Blake's favorite topics. They're all negative, kind of.
No, not negative ones. We gotta have one positive one.
Well, I do have one. Because we do want to talk about how this is happening. And I heard somebody today on The Athletic talking about how porous we are. And I did want to kind of fight back on that a little bit, because we do have from Jay Fresh was looking through the his tables that he likes to put out there, and this comes from Top Down Hockey, but the quality per 5-on-5 shot attempt against the average expected goal value of the 5-on-5 shot attempts. And this is what's coming towards your goaltender, we're actually up 5.2%. We're actually, and then this looks like we're at the bottom of the league, but this is us preventing the quality of shot coming towards us. Actually, I'm a little confused by this because I would have assumed we would be terrible at this. But according to Top Down Hockey and JFresh in this table here, with the quality of attempt against, ours is second from the bottom of the league. This could be another one where Ketzel's like, you are extremely disconnected from the league right now, because Ketzel will be like, no, that's not accurate. But I was very surprised to find this. And I think it just comes back to where the problems need to be solved. And I think it comes back to us just not being able to get legit offense. But it's funny when we have to turn it on, when we have to light the fire. Lucas Raymond's there. Moritz Seider is there. We can get some offense. Andrew Kopp lets one bounce in off his stick, off his face. However he wants to get those in there. It does appear like I fought back on like the Lalone hate, because it does kind of feel like there's maybe an argument to be made that there is something here, because when we need to turn it on, when we're down 5-3 to Buffalo, we can come back. Maybe the only thing that would go against that, as we take a look at the 5-on-5 shot attempts, the expected goal value of the 5-on-5 shot attempts we're taking, versus the ones we're giving up.
This side makes me feel more confident that this statistic is like representative of our team, because our 5-on-5 shot attempts, it's just not super awesome, right?
Right.
And can you go back to the shots against real quick?
Yeah.
This one kind of shows me, like I was expecting Colorado to be not great at this. And they're right there, because they've only had the Woods for about 2 weeks now. So now those numbers will start to trickle back down. But I think I get kind of on board with this. Like Calgary's had a pretty good goaltending year. Winnipeg's been really good. Florida, like those are teams that I'm like, it makes sense you'd want to rub elbows with those guys, like on this stat.
Yeah. New Jersey, Minnesota.
But yeah, 5-on-5, like seeing Utah, Pittsburgh, Colorado, those all make sense that they've, kind of had rough starts, and that this measures up. It checks out, Matt.
So that being said, I mean, we know like we've been focused on trying to stop the defensive side, but one of the things I heard this past week, and this was more of a comment on the Four Nations face-off rosters and the way Canada's roster was built. And this was Down Goes Brown actually talking about the Canadian roster. And he was like, look, you built a roster that at the end of the day, if you're up 2-1, you could actually hold on to the lead. But it's getting up 2-1, being up 3-2 at the end of the game that Down Goes Brown has some concern. I feel like the Red Wings are just in the same boat right now, where the struggle is getting up to that point. But if they need to stifle their opponent and prevent quality chances, yeah, go ahead.
Do you think if they had more wood on their team, it'd be easier to get up? Too soon? Too soon. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Let me throw a few comments in there since I've thrown you off again. Crips Shadow, welcome, buddy. Saying, hello, boys. Enjoying our daily section of talking about the future. Blake, God bless you, saying, what happens when the Red Wings are in a wild card spot next week? You guys will apologize. Yeah, if we make the playoffs, Matt, we'll have to really put something on the line. Like, I'm going to eat a Red Wings hat with ketchup on it. Like, I'll eat a hat. Performance Art saying our coach is a tool. He's too nice. Brian saying, cop, even a blind squirrel finds a nut. And then Ketzel just reminding us, turns out you can't win if you don't score. but that's kind of newsy system. Matt, one thing I do want to throw at you from Crimson. He's saying, what about our blue line would be better if we moved Edvinsson down to the second pair and stop this disaster of Ben and Petrie? I hesitate personally to do that because I feel like now we've got one pair. Good. I'm worried that if we break up our top pairing, we have no pairs because then Seider and Edvinsson have to carry two people past their prime who probably shouldn't be playing NHL hockey anymore.
Yeah, and the way, like, we were looking at his player card last week, where it's crazy that Edvinsson is already like top 90% in the league in his real rookie season here. I kind of like the idea of shutting down 25 minutes a game, you know, as opposed to
being terrified for 40 minutes a game.
Yeah, well, being terrified for 60, right? Like,
yeah.
Like at that point, like we know Seider has played around with the rest of this lineup, and it hasn't gone great. And I really do think like this is something where they're setting up like a D pair for a couple decades here, maybe decade and a half is more accurate. But this to me seems like this you're going to build around this, and I don't know. I don't want to try and play around with this too much and try and find a way to get more wins because, man, I just showed you guys the standings earlier. Let's just tank, man. Like, you want to talk about how close we are to a wild card spot? Mike, we're 1 point away from last place in the conference. So how far away are we right now from Nashville? I mean, we're 6 points from Nashville and Chicago. I mean, I don't know. Like, let's trade away Cam Talbot, you know? let's get some more losses in here. Let's give up some more goals. I mean, these quality shots again. Like this is what's crazy too. This is exactly what this shot attempt against, you know, before the season started, we talked about how the Red Wings were on the opposite side of this the season before. And Jesse Granger was the guy that we were both listening to that was like, oh man, Cam Talbot will not be successful for the Red Wings because of this.
Yeah.
And now what's his former team doing? Well, the LA Kings are doing exactly what they did last year. And now the Red Wings are a part of that too. So look, I think as much as it sucks, let's throw this one away. Let's build on Kasper, oh god damn it to hell. I do not want to see him developing in the AHL anymore. Let him learn this NHL speed. Let him get up to speed. He's doing so much good. Let's let some of these other guys learn how to play an NHL game as opposed to the AHL. I think maybe that's my new rant is I don't give two fucks what anybody does in the AHL anymore. I just want to see these guys in the NHL. It's great if you're a huge AHL fan. You watch every game. Maybe you think it's better than the NHL because it's grittier and tougher, blah, blah, blah. No, I only care about this team and getting the future wins. So if we're going to be this bad this year, as much as it sucks, as much as I don't want to be going into next September having a conversation similar to this, I want to be a winner next year. I think it's too late for this season. Throw the season away. Get rid of some of the offense you have left. Get rid of one of those goaltenders. If it has to be Talbot to get some real assets back, it's Talbot. Yeah. And you just stink your way on down to the best possible draft pick. And, you know, the other thing I wanted to bring up today, you know, it was, I don't know if everybody saw this, but the Buffalo Sabres and their big press conference this past week was, look, we're just going to keep sucking because we're not winning. So we can't get free agents to come here. And we also, it was funny. They said, we don't have palm trees. We have high taxes. So basically saying to those Florida teams, they have a nice atmosphere to sell and no taxes. And as much as everybody said, oh man, what's this? Is it Kevin Adams? He's just making excuses. for why his team blows. I think there's a lot of truth to that, Mike. As much as I didn't want Jacob Trouba, as much as I think that would have been a boneheaded move to take on that contract for a guy who does not earn an $8 million contract, as much as I didn't want that, he saw the Red Wings and said, hell no. They are now on my new don't trade me to list. So we are not a destination, even in trades. So what we got to do here is figure out a way to add more talent to this team. And right now it's not going to happen with bringing in more Andrew Cops. It's Mike. It's going to happen through the draft. And if that's the case, I'll say this: anybody could do that job. Wow. But that's just what we're going to have to do.
Matt, the comments are coming in like hotcakes.
Ooh,
we have some bids for comment of the episode. Performance Art saying, when are you guys going to start taking calls from the supporters? It'd be hilarious. I've looked into it. We'd actually have to get like a call board to get the inbound calls. It would be a tremendous mess. And speaking of that, Case Wojo, welcome to the show. First comment says, you guys are a mess. Man, somebody seems like a lifetime subscriber. We sure are. Thanks, Case Wojo.
Where's that one? I want to pull that up. I don't see it.
That might have to be a comment of the episode. And then directionally correct. I'm not sure what you were reacting to, but boo in all caps with a lol. Like that a lot. Oh, gosh. And Blake, ever the optimist, saying, if Winnipeg can win 14 in a row, Detroit can. Yeah. But he did follow that up with what I think might be a point that we harp on almost every episode, where he says, we're too good to tank. It can't happen. And Blake, I don't know if you realize truer words may not have been spoken. We've been harping on this, that they didn't play badly enough to get better picks for the past couple of years. So I don't know if we're going to be bad enough to get a good pick. That's a real problem. We're too good in a way to be the worst team in hockey.
I'll say this. I really agree with Blake's comment here. He said, this team will never quit. I don't agree with that. They will dig deeper. I agree with that. I think they will dig a deeper hole in the standings.
Oh, no.
I think there's plenty of room down at the bottom. I think Chicago wants to make room. They're making coaching changes because they're big dum-dums that think they should be better.
Performance art saying, Jesus, if you guys are any more positive, I'm going to puke.
I like that one. Was that just because we were trying to make that connection for like there's like a light at the end of the tunnel, right? Like if you just focus this year and make it, oh man, I hate to say it, but if this is just an opportunity to have these boys learn this defensive side of the game, and like, this is what we're doing. This is how you limit chances. This is how you do playoff hockey. And it's like, okay, cool. We weren't going to win the cup this year anyway, so I guess it's not the worst thing in the world. But eventually we have to add to this roster to have just some undeniable offense. When you're out there in the regular season, you got to jump up those standings with some goals, and you got to cave some teams in by just skating circles around them. Some other teams in this conference have been doing it for some years. Some other teams in this conference have been doing it for 1 or 2 years. You gotta, yeah, go ahead.
What I want to say to Performance Art is I hate that this is what our show's become. I really thought after last season that would be the end of our sad shows, but Steve Yzerman just wanted to prove us wrong. 1 more year. Let's run it back. And I think we can still be positive. It's just we have to, like, I think Matt alluded to it a little bit earlier on, where we just got to recalibrate what is the viewing interest in these Red Wing games, because I don't think we have the talent to be a playoff team. And I think that's, Blake, bless your positivity. I think that's the overwhelming consensus in the comments. So we still enjoy the sport of hockey. We still root for the Red Wings. So why am I watching the games? I think you could still find rooting interest watching guys like Edvinsson dominate. watching Seider blow up fellow Germans. Ketzel, that's a nod to you, buddy. That I think he had a Ryan Hanna clip or GIF that was really just awesome. So I think it's going to be more about like personal performance, like seeing who on the Red Wings is like actually going to be around, when things do turn around, and doesn't feel like, more than half of the forwards are guys who should not or will not be on the team when they are good. So, and likewise with our defensemen, there's our top pairing, and then maybe Johansson, seeing if he pans out. So I want to be positive. It makes me so sad that this team, management wise, doesn't have the urgency to like be good or be involved in movement. And Ketzel, I feel like today we're leading the league in heartbreaking comments, because Ketzel reminding us, look at Berggren and Veleno. HL dudes, but just can't cut it in the NHL as top liners. Unfortunately, the only way to find that out is playing your prospects at the NHL level. And I think, Ketzel saying that, like, it's what surprised me the most about Cossa and his treatment. Because outside of the very first time he like did that practice and he gave up 6 goals and everyone said bust, and then he's been awesome ever since. I think it just surprised me that they kept him down when it seems like he's going to be a legitimate player. And it kind of felt like, well, Yzerman has not had, a great track record so far with trades and free agency. He's done pretty good at assessing draft picks. So maybe if they didn't pan out, he'd kind of keep them down for a little while longer than maybe expected, but maybe it was because they weren't very good yet. So yeah, I mean, Berggren does have a few flashes. Veleno, he has a flash or two, but there's an objective difference between those two guys and like Kasper. You know what I mean? Where you're like, okay, Kasper's going to be on this team for, hopefully foreseeable future, 7-8 years. He's got a role. He knows his role. I don't think there's any question there that this is a guy you can be excited about as a Red Wing fan. But yeah, I think that that's what this season's going to be, is looking at individual play rather than team, because I just don't think the team has the stuff to like be a top 8 in the conference. So we'll look at individual guys.
Yeah, and what's funny too is like I could imagine, like we could go into any game and try and win, and I get that argument of like you just want to get in the playoffs. Like I think there's a style of game that the Red Wings could play for the 4 games before they're eliminated, or maybe 5, because the argument I'm making is like you could play a game here and make it 1-1 into the third period, and the bounce goes your way, and you win 1 2-1, 3-2, what have you. But there isn't enough here to do anything beyond that. I mean, like we keep talking about like what they're going to be, and Mike and I are taking a stance of like, well, they're not going to be a playoff team. Blake, you are saying like there is that chance, there is enough here to do it. But if we looked at, is there enough here? Like we take a look at not the standings, just look at the goals for. Like, we're not talking about expected goals. We're not talking about just shots on net. We're not talking about puck possession. Like, there are 3 teams worse than us in goals for this year: Anaheim, Chicago, and Nashville. Just absolute dumpster fires. Then number 4, basically number 4 offense, number 4 worst offense then is the Detroit Red Wings. And that's with a power play that looked pretty goddamn good. Rolling through November, October, like that was something that you like other teams should have been scared of. And with that comes the 4th worst producing offense in the league.
I think that people are a little interested in this topic, because there's a few more comments I do want to throw in there. Performance Art saying, I think Kasper's only scratched the surface. He has a lot more to give and prove. But he follows that up with, his problem with the Berggren comment is how do we know he isn't a top liner when we haven't used him once there, but we've tried with Veleno so many times. It's just sad at this point. Yeah, they kind of did mix it up a little bit. It was like, I know it wasn't top line like you're suggesting, but they did try to mix it up. Wasn't it Kasper and Tarasenko playing with Berggren? And that line was somewhat productive. They got a little bit of offensive push.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's ever going to, outside of, catastrophic injury, I don't think he's ever going to unseat, DeBrincat, Raymond, Larkin, in some kind of capacity, or, Kane up there. But I just, it bumps me out because past couple seasons, we wanted to give a lot of leash to Veleno, being young and, like we talked about, you don't instantly become awesome at hockey. It takes time to develop, but it just bums me out how quickly Kasper has assimilated to the NHL job. And it's this guy's naturally here. You can see he belongs here. There's no reason he should ever go to Grand Rapids ever again. But I can't say the same for Joe and Jonathan. It looks like we tried. I don't know if it's going to work out here. So, yeah, I mean, you do want to give guys a chance. I think that so far that's kind of the consensus. Like Brian was throwing in there, I saw a post on social media that said so many of Stevie's number one picks have made it to the NHL. But his comment was, how many have actually stayed in the NHL? And Jared was also, agreeing with that. How many of these guys have maintained a roster spot? How many of them should have maintained a roster spot? It kind of feels like we just did that out of salary cap necessity and, frankly, just lack of options.
I guess that one I'm struggling with because I feel like we're still working in order. All the number one picks, Kossa's not going to, because he's not going to stay up. We said 5 years when he got drafted, so it's just not. It's not.
I would exclude the goalie, but can we throw Veleno and Berggren? Or I get even Berggren wasn't a first rounder, but I think what we're just saying is how many of these Steve picks keeping and maintaining jobs and should have those jobs.
No, wait a minute.
Berggren. Is that going too far?
When was Berggren drafted? Am I crazy? I thought he was a second rounder, but
he was a second rounder. He's not a first rounder.
Okay, so that's where my head's going. Is I'm just okay, first rounders have made it. We're talking Seider, Lucas Raymond, Simon Edvinsson. That's where we're okay, Cossa doesn't count, and now Marco Kasper, and then it would be next would be Nate Danielson and Axel, and then Nygaard. So we're in order. We're in order on the Steve Yzerman first round picks. Everything's moving okay. I think the problem is that you're if we want to talk about anything beyond the first round, and how many years is that then? What do we? How many drafts? 6. And it's. Am I wrong? It's nothing. It's 0 for Steve.
Oh, they haven't
Yeah, because I mean, Berggren's 2018. What was Veleno? Was he 2018 or 2017?
Dan B thrown out there. Veleno was a Holland pick.
Yeah, both were. Another 2018. Yeah. So that's where we're starting at Seider. So I forget any of that. But anybody else on the roster, you're a first round pick or nothing, right? Who would I be missing? Do we count Albert?
I don't know what to do with that guy. He just
because he's okay. 14 games. All right, I'll give you Albert Johansson is the one guy. The only problem with continuing this conversation is this is a guy drafted in 2019 who's now almost 24 years old. So we're at this point, we're not playing the game. Like we're 2 years removed from where this guy's going to start to like peak in his career. 2 years. Like he'll reach that in 2 seasons. So we're not, I don't know. It's a different conversation, right? Like it's not like we've lucked into a guy or even a guy who's beyond like a 7th defenseman. He's still not an everyday player. I could definitely see him not finishing the season with us unless we trade more guys. So, yeah, I mean, do we count this as like working? You guys tell me, because I'm going to say no. That's where I'm at. So you have one.
Do you mean is this
guy
process working?
Does he count as making the roster as somebody like, do we want to count him as somebody making, I mean, I guess that's what I'm saying. It's like, okay, he's beyond the first round. He's a 2019 or later. So we're saying Steve Yzerman only picks. Does he count as making it? Because he's not an everyday player.
Do you mean Joe?
Albert Johansson.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I got caught in a comment. I guess, I don't know.
That would be the one guy over 6 years who's not kind of a first rounder.
Yeah, he's in and out of the lineup, healthy scratch sometime. I don't know. He's fine.
Right, that's what I mean. You're like, okay, Steve's draft scouting team.
His track record is working in the first round.
Found one guy to play as our 7th defenseman.
Okay.
On a team that famously across the league is labeled as having very little help on the defensive side. I just wanted to get down to that point of who made that point initially. Was that performance art of Crimson about the first round picks making it? How many stay on the team? I just think the point has to go a step further, and it's just like, okay, the first round picks are on schedule, but everything beyond that, you'd hope for like 1, and you're at 0 right now.
Okay, I think I just needed to pivot that point away because it's like,
I don't think you said anything wrong. I wanted to take that point to like the next level where it's like, what have we gotten from whatever this style, whatever this front office has decided, like this is our strategy for drafting? What have we gotten from that outside of first picks that kind of line up for you? You know, like you took a big chance on Seider, but a lot of the times you're just taking that best talent that's available. So, you know, I don't want to give him too much credit in the first round, I guess is what I'm saying. But anything beyond that, you're just a big fat nothing.
Jared, clearly a disciple of our show, saying build out of the draft is fine, but if the pro scouts keep finding duds, doesn't really matter.
Well, that's what so Jared, I see your comment. Amateur scouting isn't the problem. It's the pro scouts. And Blake agrees. That's what I guess what I'm making the argument is, what have we seen from the amateur scouts that it's like, all right, we got those first round picks. Anything for the other 100 guys that we've drafted so far?
Ooh, Dan B found one. He found one. Trey Augustine, 2nd rounder. Got him.
Got who? Me?
I don't know.
He's not in the NHL.
He almost did. I mean, he's at Michigan State, man. That's big.
Yeah, it doesn't count. We haven't seen a guy play an NHL game.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, if you guys listen to the show once over this season, we've talked about Steve's really good at first rounders and then hasn't really done much outside the first round. So in terms of free agency trades and drafting.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out. Is there a way I can pull up like every draft on like Hockey Reference? That would be...
I thought you were going to try and Google, are there palm trees in Detroit? I was really looking forward to that Google search.
I don't know. What's funny too is like I'm always trying to go against the grain. I think you know that, Mike. But like Kevin Adams made that comment about how there's no palm trees in Buffalo, and the argument is basically like
Are there palm trees in Winnipeg? Because those guys are doing pretty well.
They're winning, right? And they struggle to keep people, but they drafted those guys, and they kept the guys that they drafted and are really good, right? And they lose everyone. So it's like, whoa, so-and-so signed for 8 years? I totally thought they wanted out of here. Like, that's a shock. So Winnipeg's doing great. Yes. I'm not like Kevin Adams made the argument. He's like, look at Buffalo. Look at the Bills. Everybody wants to play for the Buffalo Bills because they're great. Now, the problem with his argument is that when he turns around to say, who built this team? God damn it. We suck. It's his fault. But I like the argument, and I like the focus on that, because it is very possible that Steve can, like we saw the evidence with a guy like Jacob Trouba, who wanted, like, New York did not want any part of him. They tried to get rid of him this summer, and he was like, no, I'm not going to stupid Detroit. Hell no. But then look at the track record of guys we've been able to bring in here. And I always complain all the time. I'm like, God, I wish we had gotten Trocheck instead of Andrew Kopp. Who says that Steve called him and Trocheck was like, all right, I'll consider you guys? No. It's very possible that wasn't even a thing. So I don't know what argument I'm trying to make right now. I'm not sure if I'm ready to land on the point, but I do think there is truth to it. Like, if you don't have a winner and people don't see your vision, like, wouldn't it be very tough for Steve to explain, like, he's got a very strong vision going here? Because if that was all he had to, like, hang on right now, and you had to decide between less taxes and some nicer weather down in Florida, if you had to make that choice, what are you going to pick? You're just going to be like, well, I really like the jersey. The winged wheel is really bringing me in. Who's to say? Who's to say that Yzerman's success in Tampa wasn't because of palm trees and low taxes? We can't say. We can't say. But it is. It's funny that now it's a thing.
It feels like people are pretty excited to be on the Detroit Lions.
Aren't they?
Yeah, they're pretty. We got Jamal Adams. We got Zadarius Smith. Those guys are really excited to be here.
Yeah.
I think people want to be around winning, to be honest.
Wasn't DJ our big free agent signing this summer? Or
DJ Reader?
Yeah.
He went from Cincinnati to Detroit. So I guess, it did get colder for him by like 3 degrees.
But we got him. We got him, right?
Yeah, we seduced him. So I think people just want to be on winning teams. I don't think they really care. It factors in if it's a 1-to-1, but I think you want to win. At least it's a factor. Let's just say it's a factor. There's a lot of factors that go into it.
Yeah, I'm not making the argument it's number one. I think it's just like the way that Kevin said that. Like, sure, he buried himself even more. But it made me think of the Red Wings and Steve Yzerman and what he's actually doing in conversations to sell Detroit. Because
you don't need to get hurricane insurance if you're in Detroit. That's pretty nice.
Yeah. Jared throws out there, the weather isn't always nicer in Florida. But like 99% of the time, it's like nicer.
I know, but there's hurricanes. I don't want to be a part of that. I just want to visit Florida. I don't want to live there. It's disgusting. The water stinks. The air's sticky.
It does stink. You're right.
The people are sticky. Yeah, Michigan smells great.
Especially when you go like southern tip of Florida. That is just
it smells like a southern tip. Not a fan.
Dan B's. Dan B's comment. Yeah, it was low taxes and not Bob Kachuk, Barkov, ...
Brand new with question of the episode. Which coach would you sign to turn this team into a winner? Or I guess which coach would take the Detroit job? Can I say I don't know if there's necessarily a name that I want to pursue? Is there maybe a philosophy or a coaching style that you would want to pursue instead? Because I don't think that getting more alumni from the 2002 Stanley Cup team is working for us. I don't think that signing more ex-Red Wings is what we should do. I think you need different voices.
I
think that's my priority one. I know Fedorov is a sexy name. I'm sure he's a great coach. I can't do more Red Wing yes men. I can't do more member berries. It's got to be a new voice. It can't be a guy who toiled around in Tampa under Steve. It can't be a guy who, played with Steve in 2002. It's got to be a new perspective. This is not working.
The problem is that I don't want Quenneville, but I get the argument. I get the conversation. I understand it. And I like to go for what this team needs. I think they have a soft approach right now, and I think they need a harder one. I don't know what Newsy sounds like when the doors are closed. Yeah, Blake says too bad. All right, Blake, I didn't know you were in charge. But there's something, I don't know.
Is there something like...
There's something about the direction I've taken this episode where I'm just kind of like, maybe we're doing okay for what the strategy is right now because we weren't going to win a Stanley Cup anyway. Does that make sense? So maybe I'm not asking for Lalonde's head, but I know I've even called out like specific things where it's like, maybe we need to push more on offense. We got to stop doing this bullshit defensive game. But when they do need to turn it on, like against Buffalo, they have, and they've pulled it out. I just think there's not enough scoring talent for it to make the difference all the time. One of the things we haven't pulled up yet is that we are like right at like what you'd want. I think actually we're above like the shooting average across the league. So if you're above it, like how much more are you asking for? I think it's just about a team that has enough skill to create more offense, right?
Yeah. I did want to throw in there that Crimson I think he kind of agrees with us. He's saying the Wings are having the same problem the Lions had back then with the Quinn Patricia era. Ooh, Wings are a boys club, and it's clear as day. And Ketzel's saying that was only the one instance we didn't turn shit on when we needed one goal in how many games?
Hey, but it's like that's what I'm saying, I guess. It's like it's not like they don't turn it on from a strategy standpoint when they need to. They get their asses handed to them as well, but I think it's more about the talent on the ice. I can't imagine that we actually think Lalonde right now is telling his team to suck ass all the time. Like,
hey guys, first intermission here, and I was thinking we did a great job shucking Bunge. I think we run it back. We do it for the second period, and then we shuck another butt on the third period. Who's with me?
So it's like, I guess what I'm trying to say is just like, I think there's more coaching involved when you're trying to set up a defensive game. And on the offensive side, like we've seen the power play be successful, though we've also seen it suck ass. And I don't know. You look at like Marco Kasper's, what was the shooting percentage? I was just looking at it. It's at like 5% right now. So they've definitely got, like, they're that tells me that he's not getting into those spaces to like get the good shots on net. And that tells me also that they've prioritized him to think a specific way. At least that's what I'm getting. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to like blame all this on Lalonde. Like again, like I feel like that's a conversation we've had a million times on the show, and we had the same conversations when Blasha was getting fired. It's just like I want to see some more talent on this team before we actually say something's really wrong with the way the team's being handled. Especially now, like when we're at this point where it's like, okay, there isn't enough talent here to win a Stanley Cup. So what can we teach this team?
I have a comp for you, but I'm sorry, it is another basketball one. Before the Pistons won their title in 2004, do you remember who their coach was?
Rick Carlisle.
Yeah. The reason I bring him up is he was in a pretty thankless spot where the talent on the team was not good enough to win a title. They weren't good enough to get in the playoffs, but then they fired him and brought in Larry Brown. But then they also traded for the most impactful player they've had in decades. So it's like, yeah, Larry Brown he was the head coach, but I'm pretty sure Rick Carlisle also could have coached that incredibly talented team. So I think that kind of goes in lockstep where, Blashill and Lalone are kind of in thankless roles, shouldering blame when they have a team that's, I would say, I don't think there's a coach out there that you could bring in tonight and they'd suddenly be a playoff team. That includes Scotty Bowman. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm going through this list of like coaches that I'd be interested in, and it seems like everybody has like an embarrassment like attached to them. Like even so I'm looking at this Wyshynski list with like well-traveled veterans. Gerard Gallant, Dallas Eakins, Bruce Boudreau. Like Gallant just seems to be the guy that everybody moves away from once they're ready to take that next step. But I did see one name, and I was like, I guess if this happened, there would be so little that I could point to that I'd be like, I don't like this move. And I guess it was Claude Julien. I think there's reasons that everybody wants to see Gerard Gallant in here. I know why everybody wants fucking Sergei Fedorov.
Can I say Jared was saying Scotty Bowman would have a stroke on the bench with our current team?
Yeah.
I don't know, Jared. I think he might have a quarter chub because it's a lot of defensemen over the age of 30 back there. That was his favorite thing. So I don't know. Give me quarter chub Bowman.
Yeah, Danby, Bruce Boudreau, laughing. I mean, so here, big names, fresh firings is what Wyshynski titled another section here. Jay Woodcroft, Dave Hackstall. Man, remember we discussed Lane Lambert coming over here before we picked up Lalone. Like Lalone outlasted Lane with the New York Islanders. Todd McClellan. I mean, is David Quinn? Is he working? I don't. This is a list from a while back. And then there's like this looking for a second chance who pops out on this list for me, Mike. Jeff Blashill.
Ooh.
He's looking for a chance, Mike, to get out of the.
Run it back. Run it back.
I mean, he's helping Tampa, and if they're in a wild card position right now. But this list, all of these names don't get me super excited, but at least I feel like with Claude Julien, I get a little. Well, I get a little excited.
Let's do this. We're at an hour. We got 3 games coming up. We got the Flyers on the road tomorrow. Saturday, the Wings return home to play Toronto. Yikes! We get a mini bye week for some reason. We get 3 days off and then another home game with the Flyers. And that might be a post-game show, I think. It might have pretty strong likelihood that's a post-game show. Matt, are we expecting win, loss, win? Are we going to sweep the Flyers?
Give me that again. It's
Flyers, Toronto, Flyers on the road, Toronto home, and then next Wednesday, usually a show day, will be the rematch with the Flyers. So we get a home and home.
Loss. Okay. 3 losses in regulation. Matt V. Mitchkoff, he's going to get his first career hat trick. He's going to go off. And yeah. Do I need to say more? Mitch Marner. He's going to get 6 points against us. You said Toronto, right? And then yeah, and then Mitchkoff will just be riding on those you know, he'll be riding high after that first hat trick. He'll want to see if he can do it again. Did you see that Michkov got he got kicked out of, I'm trying to think, what's the word? Kicked out of a game early. What the hell's the word? I can't
Ejected?
Yeah, he got ejected, and he stopped as he was heading to the locker room to give a kid an autograph.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, this is a fucking baller move, man. I really like Michkov. Man, yeah, that's a kid that's he's pretty fun to watch right now.
You know what else is fun to watch? Jared saying Cloud giving Matt a quarter chub.
Yep.
Dan B throwing some words at me that my onions are going down this week. How dare you, sir? No, they're gonna win. And then Matt Blake said it best, saying enjoy your night, guys. Later, skaters.
All right, guys. Thanks for sticking around, despite we don't know the I don't know the Colorado Avalanche's roster at all. We appreciate you guys hanging around regardless.
Yeah, next week for Gaslight Rant. It'll be a really fun episode next week. Looking forward to it.
I will, to my dying breath, not understand why we care about Scott Wedgwood, but okay.
TLBL, terrible. All right, let's get out of here.
See you guys.
Bye.